And Phil, how do you read those exit polls?
Well, again, as you say, we have to take them with a whole bucket of salt, actually. Particularly that Lib Dem result seems extraordinary. But here's a couple of features that I've just noted here. Even if you combine Labor with the Lib Dems, you get 314. That's not enough to govern. They couldn't do it with a coalition. If you look at the Conservatives on 307 and add the others, which is 29, they can govern without the Lib Dems. So if this does pan out, if it's anywhere near close, it's quite possible the Conservatives won't need support from the Lib Dems to govern, and that they could do it with others. Now, not all the others will support the Conservatives, of course, but quite a few will, and they only need to get a few more seats for that 307 to be in a pretty good position comparatively. But it's still very messy, and I would predict that unless Labor back off and say, no, we've lost and give up the ghost, and that's not in Gordon Brown's character, that this could drag on for some days. There's a lot of horse trading to be done between now and the declaration, I would think. And
Phil, when you talk about others, it's a real hodgepodge of parties, isn't it?
Absolutely. You've got Scottish nationalists, Welsh nationalists, Northern Irish seats, some of whom are Sinn Féin, probably 5 or 6 seats of those who don't actually turn up to Westminster. They don't believe in Westminster, so they actually sort of boycott it. So you can rule them out. The Ulster Unionists would probably side more with Conservatives than Labor or the Lib Dems. But this Lib Dem figure is really strange, isn't it? They're saying that after all the hoopla, after all the attention that they have got, that Nick Clegg got, the huge spike in their vote, apparently through the polls from about 18 to 28, that it's actually transformed into less seats. It's quite extraordinary. Although they do always have a problem, and that is that because it's not a preferential system, it's a first-past-the-post system, that their support is too evenly spread. So they might get 28% in a lot of electorates. That's not enough to win. Whereas the Labor vote is very much concentrated in urban areas, in strategic seats, and so too the Conservative vote. So they get a lot more for pretty much the same level of overall support. Labor has said to the Lib Dems, if we get in, we'll offer a referendum on changing the system to a preferential system, to an Australian-style system, and that from then on, you will be level pegging with the rest of us. And, of course, that's a very attractive offer to the Lib Dems. That may be another reason why they would want to go with Labor. But, as I said, on this exit polls alone, and they're just exit polls, the combined effort of Labor and the Lib Dems isn't enough to form government.
And if those exit polls do hold up, and we are treating them with a great deal of caution, it's fairly bad news for Gordon Brown, because one scenario that Nick Clegg has talked about in any possible deal with the Labor Party is one not involving Gordon Brown as Prime Minister.
Absolutely. He's not Nick Clegg's favourite person. There's no secret about that. And he's not a favourite amongst many in the party, and there have been attempts to get rid of him in the past. And what we expect, if there is an attempt to get a coalition deal between the two, what we expect will happen is that that they will probably insist, one of the preconditions for the Lib Dems will probably be Gordon Brown goes, in which case then David Miliband, the Foreign Secretary, is the likely winner of that and would likely emerge as the Prime Minister, as the new Prime Minister. He represents a generational change. He's the same age as the other two candidates and is seen as a fresh new face, and so would probably be far more acceptable to the general population than a continuation of Gordon Brown. Gordon Brown was seen by many as a liability for the Labor Party, and a new look, a new face and a generational change and promises of change would probably be seen as acceptable and attractive to quite a large number in the electorate.
Well, Phil,
but you can't get past the fact that if these exit polls are correct, the majority of the most people have voted for Conservatives rather than the other two.
Well, Phil, I hope you got plenty of sleep today, because you're in for a very, very long night. Are we expecting to hear from the party leaders over the course of the night and the early morning?
Look, traditionally we don't until there's something substantial to say. And look, at some point they're going to have to say, even if it's, look, we just don't know at this point. They'll come out, but they won't come out for some hours yet. And most of them are in their electorates at the moment. And if they look like there's a clear-cut victory, then they'll probably make a dash for London. for an acceptance speech. But I would rather doubt that there's going to be that rush too early, because these exit polls really tell a story, and if they're anywhere near accurate, then it's really going to be sorted in the next few days and not in the next 24 hours.